go. So just the optimism of that feeling that you can just see a problem, recognize what skills you have, even if they're pretty limited, and just sort of dive in and start doing something about it and start reading about it and learning. And, the number of like they work on something for a while by themselves and then they start emailing people who wrote papers that they're reading. And, there was a whole story about how one of them spent a whole year with nobody ever replying back because they were like a ninth grader and, they didn't.
Oh,
And and yet, and so then they started a organization to support other kids who were trying to do this to help them find resources for doing their projects, right? So,
Oh,
there's,
wow.
yeah.
I don't know, just that kind of sense of a reminder that yeah, there are a lot of problems in the world and you don't necessarily have to have super high-powered um, network around you to do something. You can just dive in and start. It really just matters you picking. So it's kind of like what Ashley and I were talking about a little bit by email about like, well, how do we know what our goals are and what matters to do in our lives and all these things? And
Hmm.
like, once you pick something and you're sort of sure that, yep, this feels important to
Yep.
me, you can do something almost no matter where you are and what resources you have or whatever. So that's my sort of takeaway message from all the that.
Yeah,
And now that
it's
I'm really tired of thinking of new things, right? It's just like so many new ideas. Like,
uh-huh.
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's so crazy like how we just don't think that we can just start work on a project
Right.
just because we feel like, or I don't know if this is a we, but like I don't know. It's just like for me, it wasn't obvious that I could just start working on research. Like I feel like I had to get to like a certain level or like know a certain like person or like
Mhm.
I don't know, just be at a place that I was not at the moment
Right.
to start doing research. But you don't like you don't need all of those things. You just need curiosity and resources and probably like it would be helpful to have someone to help like guide you if
Right.
you like don't know what's going on, but like that when you are taking the initiative to follow your curiosity, that person will appear.
Yes, that's a good point. And all of this is not to undermine, like those feelings you just expressed are very real and very true in a certain sense,
Mm-mm,
right? I mean, we
hmm.
do need background and yet
Yeah.
we also can just start from wherever we are. And
Hmm.
that's, I don't know.
Hmm.
When you talked about those students, like, those high school students having that sort of, what I've noticed is like drive for innovation, kind of drive, like they have this drive in them and then wanting to pursue it. And then curiosity, is what's driving it. And then the constant, and that, feeds into the ability to just want to keep going and keep figuring things out. I find that really something we don't see a lot as much today. Like my conversations with Doug, the CS professor.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh, see it next year. See, he's not even going to teach CS because the class has dropped or not enough students,
Oh
Hmm.
aren't
wow.
as motivated anymore." And it's like sad to hear that because of the impact of COVID and the lack
Right.
of maybe the lack of joy in learning because of the school system or whatever it is that caused this lack of joy or like something that's causing students to kind of get forced into going to school, and that's kind of losing that ability to be curious and what fun is that anymore, right? We're all chasing something exciting, something motivating, and I think that for me, when you say that, like reading these papers, like there's a whole set of like a whole different world that I just am not aware of, right? And it's I love meeting people like that. I like meeting people who are just willing to learn and just want to keep going at something, whether it be cooking or,
Right.
driving or,
Right. Or writing
exploring
poetry or
anything. Just
right.
it's nice to meet people who are constantly not complaining about things. Like I go
Yeah.
to work and I really, really like the job I do, right? Minus the whole, working too hard or the stuff that I discovered. But it's like
Yes.
going to a work environment where everyone's happy and just motivated
Hmm.
is so nice. And I
Hmm.
don't feel like I'm getting like some like pre like with some people I meet, I don't feel like I'm getting that. And some people I meet, it's just like when you meet those people, it's like, wow, okay, you and me, let's just say, let's figure this out, let's learn it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
especially with troubleshooting, when you meet people who are also wanting to learn how things are broken at work or something like that, for me at least, as an engineer, it's really nice to have someone else who's just as motivated. And when people kind of come to you and they just complain about like today, I don't want to do this, or well, the next shift will come in and they'll figure it out. And it's like that lack of motivation kind of doesn't rub off on me, but it kind of just is
It's
frustrating or like
it's demotivating,
irritating.
kind
It's
of, right?
demotivating. It's like I'm
Hmm.
just trying to have fun here or to figure this thing out. I mean, it's part of the day. I'm already spending my day here. Might as well, make the best out of it, fix a broken machine or whatever it is. And it's like I feel
Hmm.
like I haven't been meeting people like that. Is
Yeah.
is what I don't know if you're feeling that with, physics students or if they're still, loaded with curiosity, which
Yeah,
would
but
be nice.
there's that's a good question. I mean, there's some of both, right? I mean, I just as you were talking, I resonate with that point that it's just we have a tendency as a society to kind of focus on the obstacles, like here's why we can't do something or
Yeah.
whatever. And there's some value in that, of course. But but yeah, just realizing that we also there are a lot of things we can do, and let's
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
do them, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, and we live in a world where I mean, I think that's the other thing that's really eye-opening to me is, like back to Logan's point too about how we feel like we have to be at a certain place in order for our work to amplify or to,
Yeah.
to know what to do. And some of that is historical, I think, where like the world has changed so much where like publicly available data on the internet is
Hmm.
not a long existing thing. And yet now, there's the Vera Rubin telescope in astronomy. I mean, pretty much every, not not every, but data on almost any kind of phenomenon that you might want to investigate, that you could investigate by being at some, premier institution, is actually available to you open source, on
Yeah.
like and there's more of it than there are people currently working on things to possibly analyze. So you sort of, and that's true of data in all kinds of fields now. And I
Mhm.
think sort of learning just having that awareness that it's even somehow it doesn't occur to us that,
Hmm.
oh, I could just go look for data on this and see what I can do from right now. And then, like you were saying, then once you get into it and realize who you might want to talk to or whatever, then you can reach out to people and then they'll be probably receptive because they'll realize that, oh, you've already done something and you're sort of already
Hmm.
moving in that direction. And like Ashley said, then it's inspiring to talk to people who want to just make something happen. It kind of
Yeah.
it instead of demotivating us, it remotivates us because there's that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I had a conversation recently kind of about this same thing, but mostly focusing on it's getting harder for people to have that natural curiosity because of I've been like thinking about this for a billion years, but because of like phones and social media,
Yes.
because of and I watched a video recently of this too, um, but because social media is very like your brain doesn't have to
Mhm.
think hard to receive like the dopamine hits that it gets when exposed to like videos or um, really interesting pictures or like things that social media provides that
Right.
people end up wasting away their empty time that they could be using to like, think about something that they're interested in or like reflect on who they are like as a person or, do like any like personal fulfillment or any other thing that might be some kind of hobby or passion that they then get curious about and like push towards and get interested in because of the lack of empty time, but also of the lack of exercise in being able to focus and concentrate on one thing for a really long time. Like, social media, you don't have to do that at all, but like, in order to learn like literally anything, like read a manual, read a textbook, like, read a blog page or literally anything that you need to start a hobby or start something that is like curiosity driven and inspiration and passion driven. People don't have enough energy to do it, so it's just so hard for them and so
Mhm.
uncomfortable for them because they have to use up so much energy, which might
Mhm.
also be why people are like complaining about, they're
Mhm.
having to do the work and stuff because
Mhm.
that using that much energy that they don't have because their brain muscles aren't really exercising is like too much for them. So it's just like this, oh, I'm so tired. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel fun because I feel uncomfortable because
Mhm.
this is like, like exercise, right? Going to the
Yeah,
gym, like it hurts. And
that's a really
so
good way to think about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like to like read those things and to exercise that brain muscle and to get back into like reading so you can pursue those hobbies and passions is hurting because it's so uncomfortable because you need to like work that muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like, I've probably like last time talked about this a lot as well, but like with like the more I'm thinking about social media and trying to strengthen my brain to do this independent study that I'm trying to do, like the more it's like, this is actually really terrifying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I really like your analogy, like Ashley and I were talking about how much we like running and how fun
Hmm.
that is. And it's fun because we've trained enough that
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
fun now. We can just, like, those muscles are exercised. And so then you can just go out and do stuff. Whereas the hard parts are like coming back after an injury, or if you
Right.
Hmm.
haven't exercised for a while, then it's like, you know, if you're out of breath after 100 meters, then, then you're like, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
It's
And you
like,
have to
this isn't
push through
fun.
that, right? So I
Yeah.
Hmm.
really like your point of, like, focused attention is a muscle like that. I mean, not literally, but is it
Hmm.
figuratively is a muscle like that too, where if we've lost the practice of focusing attention, then it's not as fun to focus your attention.
Hmm.
Whereas you retrain that, then you're like, oh, I love thinking deeply about things and figuring stuff out and whatever. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you, Logan, with that one. I mean, for me, it's like I went from reading textbooks. I used to in college and a little after, I found that I really enjoyed reading textbooks. People were like, "Oh, I like,
Hmm.
certain chapter books," but I found myself really like loving really enjoying reading textbooks. Like it was like I was getting into electrical engineering stuff, so I was reading, any types of textbook. I think I found this textbook about um learn like electrical, I forgot what it was, like electrical theories or something. And I read the entire
Hmm.
textbook within a week, and then I went and more stuff. And it's kind of like you kind of just need this jump. But then I went onto social media and I was watching, I don't
Hmm.
know if you've heard of the engineering mindset. He's a YouTuber and he explains like topics really well. But there are like now snippets of him on Instagram Reels, and I just scroll through them. It's like 15 seconds, and then it's like how a solenoid valve works. And I don't even have to read a whole book, right? It's not really in depth
Hmm.
anymore, but I still find my brain being like, wow, this is interesting. But then I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, after like if this video is longer than 20 minutes, I'm going to swipe to learn the next thing, right? And it's like
Hmm.
back then it was not like that for me. I was always, okay, solenoid valve. Okay, watch this video now. Now read into it some more, right? Now look into
Hmm.
this, like actually figure out how the mechanism works. But now it's just so easy to just go swipe next. Oh, okay, how does this
Yeah.
pump motor work? How does this, what is the mechanism behind a motor? how does it like, the magnets work, the coils, spinning, and then it's like, oh, okay, good, next. And it's like so easy to now just go next, 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 all right? It's like you don't know that until you go back into to like for some reason for me it's like getting a push into reading the textbook again and then you read another
Hmm.
whole ordeal or whatever it is and then you're like back into this mode of constant learning and going in depth into something. But for me, I find
Hmm.
that it requires some kind of push. And it's not
Yeah.
someone taps me in the shoulder and tells me to go do something, but it's just I find something interesting and then I go even further into it. But now it's like it's so easy to just be like, oh, I'm interested in everything. And it's so easy to
Hmm.
inject my brain with like and absorb all these different things so quickly. And it's really social media. And then I find myself, that attention span, it even affects me. Like I can't even spend like longer than an hour or something watching a movie. I will start grabbing my phone
Hmm.
and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, more videos, more like the TV's playing a
More
show
input.
I'm watching, and I'm like grabbing my phone and I'm trying to watch another video from the engineering mindset or whoever it is on marketing,
Hmm.
whoever it is, right? And
Hmm.
it's like it's so quick how I go from this to that, this to that. And like, when I read the book, The Success Myth,
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
took a little tap from you, Todd, because I was like, wait, when you explained it, I was like, this is a really good, sounds like a really good book. And I read the whole thing within less than a week. And I
I
just
forgot about that
went through it
book.
page by page, page by page. And it was like, I hadn't read a chapter book in like 6 months. And it's
Mhm.
like, and then like once it's on my hands, it's like, okay, now I'm going quickly through it again. Yeah, I
Hmm.
find myself going in and out of this phase of like constant like desire to learn something so quickly and then backing out because my attention span has been impacted with
Mhm.
social media.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And it's like these
Hmm.
conversations too, right? It's like pause and like think
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting how it affects me, someone who I think I would have never thought that I would be someone who would just easily, switch over. But now I've learned that I a lot about myself this past year. It's like I've
Yeah.
changed, right? It's
Hmm.
my attention span is not as good. I can't sit and watch a movie for an hour. I can't even do that because it's the next thing, or it's cleaning the house, or it's going to take a nap. And my partner,
Hmm.
he's just
Hmm.
sitting there and he's just watching the entire show or movie, and I can't even sit through it. I'm like,
Yes.
Hmm.
okay, you keep watching. I'm gonna go sweep the grounds or something, or wipe the
Yeah.
windows or something. It's the attention span is not really
Yeah.
TikTok. I don't know, Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I find too that like even my sleep is affected by it because in order to sleep, you need to think about like one thing and like focus on that thing so that you can like drift to sleep. But
Yeah.
my brain like it's just so hard to like last night I tried thinking about like a dark, starry night with like a glassy pond and a bunch of like cool like shooting stars and like cool looking trees and stuff. And I tried so hard to focus on it, but then all of a sudden I was thinking about like, you know, oh, I need to go to the store on this day before I need to go to my sister's house to do this thing. And I'm just like, what? No, how did you get there? Just stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had that experience too. Jenna talks about something she was reading. I can't remember what it was, but had this nice phrase that I think it was something like the relaxation of concentration.
Hmm.
Just the idea that it's actually relaxing when you can get there to just focus on one concentrated thing. You can sort of
Yeah.
feel yourself regrounding and like, oh, I can just stay here. And then, but I have the same experience, right? Where you're resisting. You're like, oh, but I need to do the dishes and I need to, oh yeah, there's this paper I was supposed to work on and there's the emails to whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So finding,
Oddly, though, I find that that helps me sleep, though. I actually do that. I go through a
Huh.
checklist of the things I'm gonna do the
okay,
neit's day.
okay,
I go
okay.
through one,
Interesting.
two, three, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, time to sleep. I just fall
Interesting.
asleep
I
from just
guess,
Okay. It's like counting sheep. Instead of counting
yeah,
sheep,
I
you
was gonna
yeah,
count
I
say,
go
count
through
things to
my
do.
list. I'm just like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up, walk to the car. I go really like detailed too before I go to sleep, and then I fall asleep. I drift into sleep from my
hmm
checklist, which is interesting because it's like. It's just more stuff. It's kind of boring.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how
Yeah.
differently we
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah, no, because I'm like I like I wish I could do that, but like it just kind of like goes on forever and it never stops.
I guess
And
that's
like
part of the problem. If you can make it stop when you fall asleep versus if it continues into your sleep, kind of. I don't
yeah, then because I mean, I remember like getting surgery like for my like wisdom teeth and to like put me under anesthesia, they were like okay, like I don't know, or how many siblings do you have? And I was like, oh, I have seven. And they're like, whoa, you have seven siblings? You should name your siblings. And so I was like naming my siblings and then drifted off to sleep. So like that worked.
know.
But I mean, it was also like anesthesia. It probably would have worked no matter what I was doing. But
Your your image of the Starry Night probably would have worked too.
yeah. Yeah. But gosh, I'm getting more into like what is sleep and like why is it important and like what does it do for the brain and like nobody actually really knows that, but like there are, lots of theories on what your brain does. And I mean, from what I've gathered so far, it's pretty much just like cleaning up your mind and like resetting your mind. It's kind of like a statue, I guess, where you have just like this lump of clay and there's like phases of sleep that kind of like pick away at the clay and then you go to a next phase of sleep where it like molds the clay and like indents it to make it more like to look like something and then you go back to that other stage to like keep chipping away and like it's really important to get a certain amount of hours of sleep because if you like, lose out on like your first part of sleeping or sorry, the last part of sleeping, then you miss out on one of those important like molding or like picking away phases. So then you actually like, if you are like, oh, I can sleep for like 6 hours, it's like fine, whatever, but like really like you only pretty much got a whole bunch of picking away and you didn't get like any molding, so it's like the sleep was practically useless. And I was just like, what is going on? Like sleep is like so much like a lot more important. But I mean, everyone's always like sleep is so important, you should sleep, but I feel like society as a whole is kind of fed into more of the capitalistic outlook of just like I need to be as productive as possible for as many
Right.
hours as possible. And so like yeah, I don't need to sleep as much. And so people are like, yeah, sleep is important, but like the is like no no no
Yeah, they
no
don't
wait,
act on
sleep is
that
like
sort of thing.
yeah, it's like really important.
Hmm.
But
There's a book I'm reading. I was partly reading and then I paused and then I went and read The Success Myth, but it was also about sleep because I started fasting and then I started
hmm
and paying attention to my sleep more. So I go to bed by 9 and then I know that I
hmm
take about 30 minutes or an hour to sleep. So then sleep by 10 and then wake up, so I get at
hmm
least 8 to 9 to 10 hours sleep, but it's called
hmm
circadian rhythm and it was
hmm
recommended my
Ooh.
partner's dad and then I read it and I went like almost through the book and it talks about how like light impacts your sleep too. Like the like blue light, like if you close your eyes and even an interjection of light from anything, just like the fire alarm or any light, right, will go into a certain area in your I think it was like your cornea or inside your eye. It detects light. I forgot what it was called,
hmm
and it'll basically it's like a ticking clock. It's like once I see light, it's my clock starts, and so
hmm
I'm
hmm
awake again, and so you don't get that full sleep. So it's like it talks about like the importance of when you wake up, windows open, stare at the sun, like out,
hmm
like get that light. It's
directly at
like
the sun.
yeah, it's like
Maybe not
not
directly.
directly, but it's like it's light. It's time to wake up. So then
That'll take care of your ability to see light ever
Yeah.
again.
and like your clock starts there, and then like you
Yeah.
only have X amount of hours until your body shuts down and it gets tired again, right?
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with the idea behind fasting, right? I'm not fasting to, people fast to lose weight or fast to whatever their reason is. For me, I started
Mhm.
fasting because I'm like, I was eating at crazy hours of the day, like 10 p.m.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, run club 8 or 6 to 7. By the time I get home, it's 8. By the time I cook, it's 9. And then by the time I sit down and
Mhm.
eat, it's 10. Oh, who cares, right? At the time. But now it's like I've become more attentive to my entire day. So,
Mhm.
so I started fasting for that reason, because I want to make sure, my body is a circadian clock. It goes by,
Yeah.
when you eat is very important, what time you go to sleep is very important, and paying attention to your resting and all that sort of stuff is like, it started like this past 2 years. I've been fasting since like May, so it's a few
Mhm.
months now, almost a year. I mean, not yet, but it does help with like, being more aware of yourself. The other thing I
Yeah.
started thinking about was dreams. I know this is like all over the place, but
Mhm.
about sleep, I'm like, dreams, like why do we form dreams, and how does that like come to be? Like, why do I dream
Mhm.
about all these random things? And I just think it's interesting, right? Like, what part of sleeping, they say REM sleep, but I don't track my own sleep, so I don't know when I'm in REM sleep
Mhm.
and when my dream appears. When I was a kid, I used to think whenever I dreamed, that was reality. And then whenever I was awake, it was like that was not reality. That was just like, which one was real? Like and then like, how come I don't remember some dreams? Other than, they say if you write your dream when you wake up, you write your dream down, then like write it down like vigorously, and then like within like I think a minute or something, it goes away. But then if you have a book
Mhm.
of dreams, you always have your dreams in there. I've never tried it, but I found that if I told someone my dream, I remember it more, because then
Mhm.
it came out of my mouth and kind of like I comprehended. But it's very interesting how we form dreams and what kind of reality is that? Is that a second alternate universe, or what really is our dreams, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And to the well, two things. One is I sometimes do that, like writing down dreams, keeping a
Yeah.
dream journal to be able to do that. And I can verify in my experience that that's very true, that if you write it down, then you remember it because you went through the process of doing it. But the other thing is it's a very short book and it's a fiction book, so you might enjoy adding it to your list sometime. It's
Okay.
by Ursula Le Guin, and
Yes, I love
it's
her.
it's
Sorry.
called The Word for World is Forest. And my cousin's daughter actually recommended it to me a couple of, I say a couple years ago, which probably means it was like 5 years ago or something like that. But um, but the one of the core themes, I mean, it's basically this sort of, capitalist, colonialist sort of Earth society on another planet that visits, the indigenous people there are sort of representative of, the stereotype at least of indigenous people on Earth, right? And they're more nature based and more in tune with the cycles of nature and so on than this sort of, Western impose our
Yeah.
will on the world sort of thing.
Mhm.
But the the core aspect of it that made me think of it here is that the indigenous people on this planet, they basically have two realities. There's dream reality and waking reality. And basically, if you don't dream, they feel like you go insane, right? They basically think that, these Earth colonists are crazy because they don't dream in a controlled waking sort of way, which is what
Mhm.
these people do. It's almost like a meditation sort of
Yeah.
thing. But anyway, the thing that really struck me about it is there's this parallel of there are these two worlds, and Le Guin sort of explores the what does dreaming do for us, right? And why do we need
Mhm.
that world?
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm probably gonna go read it again now that you've reminded me of it.
Yeah, no, I need that. That's really
And it's a
cool.
short book. I mean, you can read it in a few hours, although you'll
Yeah.
probably want to think about things, which will make it take longer, but especially if you're practicing
Yeah.
your focus muscle. But
Right, right.
yeah, that's really cool. So
Yeah, no.
actually, no, you go ahead, Logan. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I really like the point you made, and I mean, Todd, you also emphasize this as well with Ursula's book, but like, what if like the reality that is, because I mean, I don't know, we sleep for like 8 hours. I don't know how for how many of those hours we like actually dream, but like, there are people who like sleep for a lot longer, and like, what if they're dreaming longer than they're experiencing reality? So
Hmm.
like in a way, like for them, their lives are more like they're interacting more with the dream reality than actual reality. So to
That's
them,
crazy.
their actual reality is dream reality, and could argue that waking reality is like their dream
Yeah.
The
reality.
little me was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like, isn't there a famous quote? I think it's Lao Tzu that say, am I Lao Tzu dreaming that I'm a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm Lao Tzu?
That's great.
Something like
Yeah.
that. I think
Well,
I may have the name wrong of who it is, but it's
mhm,
something from Taoism, I think. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's really good. Oh, now I see. This is why I love our conversations. They remind us of all the things. They reinforce all the things that we want to be thinking about, right?
mhm, mhm,
Hmm. The other thing, Logan and I have talked about this a little bit, but something I've started doing on sabbatical, because like the start of my sabbatical was I was really good about like concentrating for, sometimes maybe even 10 hours a day, right? I would just like get lost in an idea. And then, I got one paper written, and then there was the pressure to like, okay, now I should be giving talks on this and I should be doing things and whatever. And so then, now I've swayed back into the doing too many things. And
mhm,
the nice thing about sabbatical is you have control, so you can sort of like I can notice that and adjust. But one of the practices that I found really helpful that Logan and I were talking about is like, so it works really well when I don't have anything else that I have to do, but it even works, I think, when you're busy with other tasks, is at the start of every day, I put like on my desk, which is mostly cleared off, just one note card with just like, a single, like, you know, this kind of note card, right? And just write on it like this is the theme of the thing I want to most be giving attention to today, right? It can be a question like um I don't know, question like what would I most like to discover if I could discover anything? That was one of my questions this last week. So, but just something so that it's just there by itself. It's
Yeah.
nicely on a note card so it doesn't get lost in my journal or, with other words around it. And then it just sort of anchors my attention. So even if I have to actually do other tasks during the day, I don't just sit and stare at the card and
Yeah.
think about the one thing. But somehow it always brings me back to, okay, yeah, that was the thing I really wanted to be thinking about today. And then like at the end
mhm.
of the day, I can, journal about it and see what progress
Mhm.
I've made or something. But anyway, just like simple little
Reminders.
practices that help bring us back to, well, what's really important? Where do I want my attention to go? And how do I,
Mhm.
how do I bring my attention back to less scattered, like Ashley was saying, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so we might just think about like what are all the ways that we can do that? I mean, I guess in a way it's sort of like setting a sleep schedule or like because like you're
Mhm.
fasting, is it you sort of constrain when you eat is basically what it
Yeah.
is, right?
And
Like
I
you
go with,
and
so I paid a lot of attention into it. And it's like, I don't even, when I first started fasting, I was like, okay, well, that's okay, interesting. It's going to be easy maybe if I just, 8 to 5, just making up the time, 8 to 5. Okay. I can figure that out. But I didn't realize the impact of the type of food you eat too. And then you start becoming more
Mhm.
attentive to that sort of stuff. It's like, okay, well, when I break my fast, you can't just go straight into fruits, right? You think fruits is healthy for you, but it's like the whole thing about glucose spikes, right? And it's like
Hmm.
that's my main reason for doing it is I want to reach autophagy, which is like cell repair, and then it's also
Hmm.
reducing glucose spike because you're young, whatever, however old you are, and as you're like you don't really pay attention to your glucose spike. It's like okay, well if I just eat a bowl of blueberries, mom always told me it was going to be healthy for me, so it's better than eating a chocolate bar. So who cares, right? But then
Right.
I started
Hmm.
thinking about it more, and it's like, well, reading about it and learning about it from my partner's dad, because he has been doing fasting for a while now, and he actually is more intense. He only eats for like 5 hours. It's crazy. I don't know
Uh-huh.
what he does.
Well,
But
Uh-huh.
he talked about how when you break your fast, it can't just be something sweet. It has to be,
Right.
something dense, like sort of like nuts. We do nuts or boiled eggs.
Hmm.
And that
hmm
doesn't, it's
Something with
not, doesn't have,
protein.
yeah, not high sugar, so it won't, cause a glucose spike. And that's what I kind of wanted to. And then once you ease into your day, you can start eating your sugars or whatever. But it's like you started
hmm
off your day with a nice, steady glucose level, right? And no
Yeah.
spikes.
yeah.
And then, because over time, that's what causes diabetes is
Right.
constant
Yeah.
spikes. And you could be the healthiest person ever, but could be eating wrong, eating,
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff. And we're as humans, we're not meant to be eating throughout the entire day. That's the one thing I've
Hmm.
also realized is from fasting. It's like we're not meant to be eating, from 7 a.m. in the morning all the way until, 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. of the next day. It's like you don't know because you're starting snack on this or a snack on that or, just a smoothie here 'cause that's just finish off my day. It's like that sort of stuff. And you don't give your body time to kind of ease out of it, ease out of and you're like, okay, I'm not eating anymore. It's time to go to sleep. That also impacts your
Hmm.
sleep is
Uh-huh.
what
Hmm.
time you eat and then if you're like eating and then you're going straight to sleep, then it's like it's going to impact you. You're not going to have probably the best sleep. You might go to sleep faster because you had a really big meal, but you're not going to have like this deep sleep that, maybe that's also what you're looking for, right, Logan? It's not
Hmm.
just you kind of start paying attention to that random, like all that sort of stuff. It's like you're not say I set my time to sleep by 9, but then I
Hmm.
go to sleep from 9 and then I wake up throughout the night from, excess drinking of water because I thought, drinking water was really good. That sort of stuff you start thinking about. It's like now I'm like, okay, drinking water throughout the day. Because I noticed I started waking up at 4 a.m. I have no idea why. It was like on a dot. It was like there was like some clock in my body. It was like 4 a.m. wake up. And so it was like, maybe it's the water, so just don't drink too much water towards the end of the day, but maybe more
Hmm.
throughout the day in the morning, splitting it out, not chugging water, but that sort of stuff you kind of start paying attention to more. And then I don't wake up at 4 a.m. anymore to pee or anything. So
Okay, yeah, wait, no, I was gonna say I have that problem very badly. It is so bad.
probably the water.
It's twice a night, and it's always like
The same time.
the windows are like midnight to like 2 in the morning, and then from like 4 a.m. or like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And like either like it's one of those or it's most of the time both of those, and it's driving me crazy. Like I've started to stop drinking water by like 7 p.m. But like
Yeah.
still it happens at least once a night and I'm like, okay, I can't, I hate this so much. But like also like I wake up like feeling like really dehydrated, like my like lips are like a little bit more chapped and like
Mhm.
my tongue's a bit like dry. And I'm like, I've wanted like, and after 7 p.m. I'm like, I guess I just need to maybe drink more water before the day and then maybe stop drinking water by like 6 p.m. or something.
I think also though, I can't remember where I read this, but I thought also being dehydrated causes your body to think that you need to pee more, and then because I
Um,
forgot where I saw
Could
that,
be
but
too, yeah.
maybe
uh-huh.
I need to look into it a little bit more. But I
Mm-hmm.
keep seeing that somewhere. It was like, so I think you want to drink. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but I did a lot of research with the fasting thing. That's why I kind of like got into it. But it's like also like I think it's like drinking water throughout the day, but you also don't want to just dehydrate yourself completely. And it could also be your food, right? It could be like maybe something in your food is causing you to need to pee more. I don't know what it is. Like pretend you
Hmm.
have like sprinkles of coffee beans. I don't know. That's just a little dramatic, but maybe there's some
Hmm.
kind of food in
Right.
there that is more, is it the word
More
diuretic, I think?
diuretic. Yeah, yeah,
Cause
yeah.
that causes you
Mm.
Yeah.
to want to pee more, and that could be it too. And
Yeah.
maybe
hmm
look into that sort of stuff. It's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
no,
also
there's
lack
so
of
much to
sleep, right? I
this.
mean, part of the
Yeah.
cycle, like on on a day when you didn't have much sleep the night before, then that messes up your eating cycle and your
Yeah.
like how dehydrated you get and all that. So it's sort of all interconnected.
Lights in your room
Yeah,
too. Have you like
lights
looked
in the room.
around? That could be like, oh, an indicator of like that whole blue
Sure.
light in your eye that detects blue light, and then you wake up and now you're what else are you gonna do? Okay, I feel like I need to pee, so maybe I'll go pee. So maybe the
hmm
problem really isn't just the peeing. It might just be lights in the room. Um,
hmm
and you don't know what kind of lights until you kind of like look and I went to this talk once. This guy named Sam Radar, he comes to work and there's like free talks. If you want to go, you go. And then so I
So
went
cool.
and he talked about, he was like, when you go to sleep tonight, go and close your door and do whatever you usually do and look around your room as you lay in bed where you would be and look for the amount of lights in your room. And people were like, well, I'm pretty sure I only have like two. And he said, then people started counting and there was like 10 things in the room that had some sort of light to it.
Uh-huh.
Like it could be the oven light or like your door is open, so your oven, you see your oven light right
hmm
now, and that's straight
Smoke
up blue light. Yeah,
detector,
smoke
little,
hmm
detector
hmm
or anything. And he's like, okay, that's probably what's also causing you to have a difficult time falling asleep or causing you to wake up. Because he didn't talk about
hmm
that lens, something in your eye causing detecting it. It was the book that I read
hmm
that kind of talked about that.
Right.
Because people now also wear like blue light glasses or something. Have you heard of that? It's like it's
Oh yeah.
like you
so
stop you from detecting it too strong or something. I think it dims
yeah,
it down. It's like the same thing with the iPhones. They have that like
like
night
a
night shift or
screen.
whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of like cranks the light down to yellow
Right,
light, and it's not just blue light interjecting into your eyes.
right.
So there's all sorts of stuff. It's yeah.
Yeah. So you
Isn't
just
there also like
experiment.
a temperature element to like it needs to be like cold, a little bit
Oh,
colder
yeah.
before you fall asleep, but then to like wake up, like it needs to be like a little bit warmer to warm you back up to like your normal
Yeah.
body temperature, like your normal awake temperature. There's so much to it that like
So much
nobody
to
knows
sleep.
about, I feel like.
Think your body drops down to like 40 something degrees Fahrenheit. Like it goes really low and then
Whoa.
starts your heart starts dropping down really low too and like you get really you that helps you go to sleep. Um
hmm
yeah. Because
I
I
think I do.
recently oh sorry, what was that?
You continue.
Oh, I recently been having like a fluttery heart issue. So then my doctor
Mm-hmm.
gave me this monitor, and I saw that my heart, like, you put a monitor on you, and it kind of detects like your beats per minute or whatever.
Mhm.
And my beats per minute has always been so low, and I think it might be from running or whatever it is, but
Mhm.
hmm
they call it bradycardia. And so I started having like fluttery heart rates and I noticed it and I told her about it. She gave me this monitor that I had on for like 10 days that monitored my heart. And then I looked at it and I was like, it shows like throughout the time of day how low my heart was. And I was like hovering at like 60 beats per minute. And then at night I saw it drop down to like 40 to 30. And I was like, wow,
Whoa.
that's
Mhm.
very low. But then
Whoa.
some people might have it the reverse issue of me and might be tachycardia, which is like beating, like your heart beats really fast constantly.
Right.
Mhm.
And I know that could be an issue too. So I've realized now I can't have caffeine anymore. I can't really have coffee anymore. I used
Mhm.
to be able to drink coffee just fine, but it causes my heart to get all like, and it's not even like, I don't take like Red Bulls or anything. I know those have like high caffeine,
Mhm.
like
Right.
200
Right.
plus milligrams. I don't even do that. I
Mhm.
just like a cup of black coffee and I find my heart kind of starts fluttering from that. So I have
I
to,
have that experience too a little
yeah.
bit sometimes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not sure what it is. Maybe running or
Yeah,
yeah.
man, I wonder if it is the combination of the whatever the caffeine does combined with if you have a low heart rate from running.
Yeah.
And because anyway, I can relate to that. Just every once in a while, you
Yeah.
get that kind of feeling. Because I don't drink coffee very much, but sometimes I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many, so many details. So see, somebody should write a machine learning model of all the factors that influence our new project. Hmm. I was also just thinking about, all the things we've been talking about are sort of could be connected in the sense that, right? I mean, there's when you eat, there's your eating schedule, your sleeping
hmm
schedule, exercise schedule. Um, and then all of that I think is related to what you concentrate on, right? I mean, the scattered attention, so I'm just imagining,
hmm
sort of integrating all these things into just sort of more mindfulness about like, what are we thinking about? What are we eating? What are we giving our attention to, I guess I should say, rather than thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
hmm
there'd be sort of, you could apply the fasting kind of structure to your thoughts as well, right? Like
Yeah.
when do you
hmm
focus on one thing or the other? I don't know, just brainstorming.
That's a
Yeah,
good
and
point.
like if fasting influences how well you can focus, or like depending on, because I mean, I don't know, I also find that after I like eat food, there's like this like crash, and it really depends on what I eat. So I've been able to figure out that, you know, glucose like berries, or like bread, or like those refined carbs, or those more glucosey carbs. Like if I eat a bunch of those like for lunch, like it's game over. Like I
Yeah.
like there's a huge like I distinctly remember at Pacific when I was taking introduction to analysis, the math class, the insane math class that seemed like gibberish the whole time, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on the whole time. Um, like that, I had that class from like 2 to 3 p.m., like probably the worst possible time to have that class. So like there were some moments that I think about now to this day where I was actually like falling asleep. And sometimes I think about like when I'm having trouble falling asleep, I like think about those moments to try and see if that can like lull me to sleep.
Just imagine you're in real analysis at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
after lunch.
Yeah.
Visualize that until you fall asleep. That's good.
Yeah, because I mean I could feel like the like my brain like shutting down, and like my eyes like getting heavy, and like like all of those things. But like also there were times like because of like the lunch lull where I'd like, take like a 20-minute nap, and when I woke up, like I could feel my heart like beating like slow, but then like kind of start like freaking out a little bit because I was awake, so then like started like beating faster to beat at the
Mhm.
normal rate that it was. So when you said like your heartbeat, slowed down when you were sleeping, I was like, whoa, like that's probably what my heart was doing when I woke up from the 20-minute nap after like completely crashing out.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty amazing. All the things that go on that affect us, I guess, just in general. Hmm.
yeah. And like all of these things that we think about, like, you know, the all of these things that we're currently thinking about are then like, you zoom out to the huge universe
Mhm.
and are just like
Uh-huh.
that's
We're
that's
so tiny in
interesting.
the world.
Yeah, yeah.
That was what I was
That's
just gonna
weird.
say. It was like I wish that there was a way to stand outside of my body, but still see
hmm
like see everything happening, like the brain absorbing things and how things kind of fluctuate in, or like when you doing something as simple as drinking water, how that kind of just goes through your body, kind of like a
hmm
clear view of my body and just see how everything works.
Right.
And then, getting further out
Yeah.
from that, standing, in the universe, like on top of the earth and just looking down at
hmm
everything, right? Because I do that sometimes with like, you go on an airplane, like you fly, and you look down, and you're like,
hmm
wow, those tiny things on there, they think that everything matters to them. Like today, like the whole
hmm
world is like crashing and it's like so much is going on because I'm trying to, complete the checklist. And it's like when you're up there and you're looking down, it's like, it's like you just like you can just like
hmm
exhale and you can just be like, well, that's those tiny little things, those cars moving around, everyone kind of, driving to their destination. It's always to do more things, right? It's never to
Mhm.
pause and look. And I think this kind of is like what
Mhm.
all three of us are like, we're talking about this because we're pausing and reflecting. And it's like
Mhm.
we don't do a lot of this in this world other than, when you're forced to, for me at least, like
Yeah.
sometimes I get into the moments where I think about it a little deeper, like reflect on things, like when I read books, that kind of
Mhm.
helps me to change my perspective on things. But also I find that it's like when I'm forced into boredom, like COVID,
Mhm.
forced into, my room. And I was like, no problem. I love this. But then it's like from there, it's like, what do I do with my time now? School is sort of shut down and now I have all this time in my hands and I can just reflect on a lot of things. And it's the same thing with when you're on top of this, on this airplane, pilot's driving, no
Mhm.
one's, doing anything, like no one's telling you to do anything. You can't do anything. You're just sitting there. You're
Yeah.
forcing yourself to sleep. But then for me, it's like looking out the window. Because I had a work trip recently. I went to Alpharetta in Georgia, and I remember
Well,
looking down and just like thinking like, wow, these people are just that's me. Like that
That's
was
you.
me yesterday. And it's
hmm
like just
hmm
going through, going driving the car like to work, and it's like you think about these things, and you're just like, why does it matter so much? And why are we always constantly stressing about these things? But it's like I fall into that trap all the time, every day, right? It's
hmm
like, and then you only reflect about it, and then you either feel sorry for yourself or feel like, oh, I should have done this, right? Or should have done that, or I shouldn't have done that when I was younger, or all this sort of stuff. And it's like the thinking is not bad, but how much of the thinking can you do? Because you don't always do it. You don't always reflect. You constantly are chasing the next thing, the next goal, or
hmm hmm
getting through the day. And then you look at your life from, I've always think of it like looking like standing at my destination, wherever that is, or, whatever I end, whatever it's complete, and then look back and think like this, looking through this tunnel, and on the tunnel, there's this, it goes all the way down on the wall. There's a bunch of everything I've done in my entire life, the things that
hmm
that hurt, or the things that went well, or the things that, I aspired to do but didn't get to do. And
hmm
like this like map, when you look at like a crime, when you watch like crime scene videos and you see
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
maps about
This is the
like this person did
strings
this and
and
that did
the
that, and now this person can't do this, and this person's the reason why this thing happened. And it's like
Right.
sometimes I do that with like when I get the chance to reflect, I do that with like an imaginary tunnel, and then I just see all these like sort of crime scene maps happening, and it's like, oh, this is why I couldn't do this. I couldn't go to Costco to get this one thing because I really wanted it, and then this is why, like, it's like all this sort of stuff, and it's like you don't really get to do that reflecting until you kind of are thinking
Something
about it.
forces you.
Right,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
forces you to do it or
hmm
pushes you to do it. And I think a lot of us don't do it. And I think when you do it, you learn
hmm
a lot about yourself, and
Yeah.
you realize a lot more about the world and,
hmm
things people are trying to fix, the problems, right? Like I work at a facility that makes cancer medicine, and I sometimes think all of this is a business, right? It's money. Like when you go
hmm
to school and you're teaching, all of this, you're doing what you want to do. It's your passion to teach, I would hope, and I think it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's a business at the end of
And
the
it's
day.
also a occupation, a job,
It
right?
is.
It's
And it's
right, right.
like how much of what I do is really, really like serving a purpose, right? Because sometimes I
Yeah.
think about
hmm
like
Yeah.
sometimes I get into like really deep thoughts, and I think cancer drugs are like you hear about like when people like get cancer, they go on chemo or whatever, and that ends up destroying all the cells in their body, the good and the bad. That's how it works, right?
hmm
But look at how fast they manufactured the COVID vaccine, right? And sometimes I think the like the cure all for cancer has already been made.
Mhm.
I know it's a little like maybe controversial, but it's like sometimes I think that that had already exist. And if it truly was the goal to help everyone in the world, maybe that would have came out already. But it's like, well, it's a business, right? So I'm not going to. It's something like weird in my head that I keep thinking like, I think the
I
drug
think I
exists,
know
but I
what you
think
mean.
but
Yeah.
I think they found a different drug that will kill all the cells in your body. So then you end up going like you living your life a little longer, but then you get into remission, and then you go back into this sad space, which is like, confined in a hospital room, and then you're sick there for the rest of your life, and then you pass, unfortunately. But it's like sometimes I think like it's an interesting thought that I sometimes have, and
hmm
I think like there is a cure, but how much of what we do is it really for us? Like I'm not the person, the business, t the top of the industry, so I'm not
hmm
looking for the money to build another building of mine, but for those people, like how much have they blocked certain things that could save people or that sort of stuff? It's an interesting thought that I've always had.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
drives, yeah, just what incentive structures we operate within really
Yeah.
affect what
hmm
we do, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the people who are in charge of businesses who are more immersed in the goals, like the every day to day, like making a lot of money for their business, like all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and like don't have time to like think and pause and like reflect on how tiny the world is, or who they are as a person, or what they're doing with their lives, or how they're impacting other people. Like those people who especially like in a capitalistic society where there isn't as much empty time and we want to be productive and working constantly all the time, like it's it's easier for people to forget that their influence and impact on other people. So like they could be, very well, have like this cure for cancer and
Right.
are not really distributing it so that like more people can come back to our facility so we get even more money, or whatever. Like that could be like very well something that happens to people because of the lack of empty time that some people might have. So like it's crazy how like empty time is just so important. Like because I was like I want empty times that I can like you know be more creative and innovative and imaginative and bring really cool ideas into the world and play around with them. But then, there's also the side of it of just like having empty time to be like, what's your favorite food? Like what do you how do you react to this kind of situation? Like, what do you think that person thought when, you said like this thing, or like how could people respond to a thing like that, or like all those kinds of like, deeper things. So I just, and then with like social media, like take like social media and capitalism combined. I didn't even think about that. Like social media and capitalism combined, it's like you just won't have that empty time anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to think about how like there there are things that happen in the empty time that you sort of can't make happen, and the only thing you have control over is creating this container, right?
hmm
Like there are things that you pretty much know will happen, like Ashley was saying about, you will think about the bigger picture and you'll make these connections. You can't force them, but you pretty much know that if you
hmm
create enough empty time, they will happen.
hmm
But the only thing you can control is just making sure you have the empty time. And I think, I don't know, that's hard to build into the structure sometimes, right? It's like we know it's value. I mean, it's like making sure you sleep or making sure you
hmm
eat
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like stuff happens because of that, but we can't predict what it is. And so somehow we don't do it if we think we can control everything, something like that.
Um,
Yeah.
Distractions. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
our distractions. That's
hmm
the
Yeah.
definition of the word is
It's
distraction. I think is a huge thing. Reflecting is also a huge thing that a lot of us don't do. And I feel like if we just
hmm
reflected more, maybe we would have more compassion, or maybe we would
Mhm.
have more empathy for people, and we would care more and love more.
hmm
But, this constant rush and all of this, you get caught up in wanting to make more of whatever it is for you. A lot of people, it's money, right? The drive to make more money.
Yeah.
And for how I think about it, I always say you're not going to take this money with you to the grave. So why is it so important to chase after this constant
hmm
paper that you're not even going to take with you? And there are
hmm
so many people in the world that can fix, hunger in the world, or And even we can. Like I can do that with, the money I have. I don't have a lot, but you can choose what to do with it. It's like to me, it's like, practice what you preach. So you don't have to, film yourself handing things to people, right? That defeats the purpose, right? It's like,
Yeah.
where does it come, like, where does being genuine come into play in this world now again? And
Hmm.
it doesn't happen often because we're always chasing after our own selfish needs, our own desires, and then we're always distracted with all these things, whatever it is, paper, things coming into your bank or whatever it is to you. And then it's like when you take a step back and reflect, then there is more compassion that you can share with the world. And I feel like that is what living on Earth should be like this
Hmm.
imaginary world that I would want is not what we have, but it's like when you stand on like the picture of like the globe, and then like when you were a kid, there's a picture of the globe and people holding hands around the world. Sometimes I wish we
Hmm.
could just do that. I wish we could
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
all surround everyone in the population of planet Earth could just stand around, hold hands, and look down and just realize, just take a moment to reflect. Imagine a world of silence just for that, and then how much compassion we can share with just that. But we don't do
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
I
feel like,
yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
you go ahead.
No, you should.
Oh, okay. Um, I feel like one thing, I feel like it is like one of the biggest things that makes people not want to like share their money to end world hunger and are more like money driven is because of the fear of falling like into the like, lower class, not like, not being able to make enough money to eat food or, to be in that position that people are in because a lot of people have money. So like they're always like, well, I gotta make money so that I'm not ending up in a position where like I won't have time to like, think and reflect, or like I won't have time to pursue like my interests and my hobbies and my passion. And like there's like a lot of people out there who are working like three jobs in order to, make enough money to live. And, they have, no time to be able to do that. And, there are people who are like hungry, and because they're so hungry, they, don't have enough like energy to like be able to think about things. Or, some people don't have enough money to buy, a guitar or something
Yeah.
to like play with, or like, ingredients for a cake, or, like those kinds of things. So I think people, out of fear, like maybe we're living in a society fueled by fear, where, you know, they are more money focused because of the idea that they won't be able to live a fulfilling life, I
Right.
guess.
There's a fear of scarcity that
Yeah.
Hmm.
that right that sort of drives. This is reminding me. Sorry, I keep throwing out more book titles,
Oh
but
no,
you
good,
can
good,
you
good.
can ignore
That's all
them
right.
or look at them if you. So this just reminds me when I was probably just after college, so probably about your ages. Um, the a book I discovered. It's called Your Money or Your Life. Um, Vicki Robbins, I think, and Joe Dominguez. I think if you just looked up Your Money or Your Life,
Okay,
you'd
it's like a
probably find
yellow
it.
book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yellow
I have a
book.
copy of it back here somewhere. Um, but the gist of it is learning to recognize what's enough for you. Like it's sort of
Mm,
process as recognizing what's enough so that we don't have that fear of scarcity, and realizing that, oh, you actually
Yeah.
maybe don't need
right.
nearly as much as you thought you did,
Yeah.
and you can find ways to. Anyway, it just made me think of that.
And how
That
many
Hmm.
of us can lend a helping hand when if we could just stand on top of this globe in a huge circle and just talk about, who actually really can lend a hand and who actually is suffering from not being able to buy things, right? Because there are some people who can afford, the day-to-day basic necessities, but still say they don't have enough because they desire more. I'm not trying,
Mhm.
like, it's like, okay, how much of us, if we could just reflect and just help each other out, how much can we, have a world that's more, it just hurts sometimes, right? Like to just see the world like constantly grabbing for the next thing or some people being selfish. And
Mhm.
it's just like, how much of us can just lend
Mhm.
a helping hand to the homeless person sitting right outside Trader Joe's versus how many of us can just drive by and just say, oh, I don't have enough money to spare. But it's how much are you willing
Mhm.
to share, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, I have, say I don't have enough money, but I could buy a burger for myself and then split it with the person,
Yeah.
across the street, literally can't even afford anything. And it's like, how
Mhm.
much of us can lend a helping hand if we just took time to reflect and
Right.
we don't do that, which
Right.
is,
hmm
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so
and
then,
no, you go
or
ahead this
can I
time,
go this
Todd.
time? Okay. So yeah, but just this sort of an overarching thing that's been bouncing around in my mind as we were talking about this, as I'm listening to you too. Like, so I just wrote down in my notes this phrase, to the extent that the world is not the way we'd like it to be, right? Which it's not, right? I mean, we
yeah,
always have this sense of like the world isn't the way we wish it were. We can imagine a world that's better somehow. So then I just keep thinking about, why not? Like
yeah,
what, why, what could we do, we collectively, like, yeah, I guess, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Like, the world's not the way we'd like it to be, so it's worth reflecting on, well, why isn't it the way we'd like it to be? Like, are there things that we can do that will make it definitely the way we'd like it to be? And then will we be satisfied?
hmm,
Or will there be something else that we'd like to be different? Or I don't know. Anyway, it's just that general question is something I'm thinking about. It's like really
Yeah.
delving into why isn't it better? I guess why isn't the
I
world better?
yeah, I feel like one thing, like especially being in New York, like I'm seeing like all of these things, and I feel like one big thing is just how materialistic, at least the US is. Like it's just everywhere you look, it's like these ads being like, you need this item, you need this item, and it's like tricking us into thinking that we need to use our money to buy these things because they want money too. And like really in reality, we don't need that money, and we could be using that money to, buy a burger for the homeless person or, like help out using our money to like give to charities so that people can have clothes and places to live and enough money to just like live as a normal human being. But like also the other hand, and I've just kind of like followed suit because I'm, you know, I don't want to get like attacked or like mugged or, in these kinds of things, but like just in like how people like interact with each other like on the street they just don't. And it's funny because you're just kind of like walking to your next thing, and there's just going to be kind of like a lot of people who are going to be like you know yelling like random things or just kind of like you know following people around being like, hey, I want money, can you please give me money, like I need money. And like I found that got to the point where I went to Disneyland in October, and like a cast member kind of like, Star was like, hey, was like, interacting with me, and I just kind of ignored them and walked past them and was like, what? I don't need to do that here. Like, I'm like always worried that like if I interact with them, it's like, gonna get to the point where like because, maybe they're not like as mentally stable or don't have like as much like reasoning because, maybe they've um, you know, had too many like drugs that kind of like had altered their brain chemistry to be able to like, you know, not resort to like scary violence and stuff like that. Like they may have lost, like reasoning and stuff. So I'm always like fearful that if I do interact with people that I'm gonna get into a situation that's really scary. And, whenever, especially like at first. in New York, when people would be like, "Hey, please, I need like some money." Like I would, I would be with people who were living in New York for a while and they'd just kind of like, ignore them, walk past them, or just be like, "No, sorry, I can't help you." And it's just like that. I was just like, I hate like
Right.
that makes me feel so horrible. But like as the longer I live here and the more people that are doing that, it's so easy to just like disassociate what's like actually happening when you do that to someone, and there's just kind
Mhm.
of like the normal thing. And I find that really interesting, but also like I don't know if I'm using this as like just an excuse to not give like my money away or what. But like whenever I'm like sitting there like walking away, still feeling like, oh my God, like I just walked by that person who needed help and I did nothing. It's like my brain is like, they if you stop to interact with them, they could have had the opportunity to be like violent and aggressive or something like that. So like I'm unsure of like was that just like an excuse to like not give my money away, or was that actually like a reasonable like, yeah, it is common to like if you give someone your like that if you give someone like that your attention, like you could be put in a bad situation that you don't want to be put into. So it's just like I don't really know, like and there's also like the people who are like, oh, I don't, because if I give money to them they're just going to use it to like buy more drugs or whatever. Like also it's just like how do you go about that when you don't know the person's intentions? Like how can you safely
Yeah.
go about
I,
that, I
I,
guess?
yeah. I mean, the problem of everything being so impersonal, right? I would sort of think about
Hmm.
from a system level, like I think feel like that's sort of the core of it, right? That it's impersonal, so
Hmm.
we don't know, and that we've lost that, and then there's just I mean, aside from the danger or anything, like it's back to the our attention, right? If
Hmm.
there are too many things thrown at us, we have to filter. So like
Right.
you can't give attention, especially in a place like New York City, exaggerates that, right? To the point where
Hmm.
if you're in a small community, there's not so much of that and it's more personal. And so you can sort of know the
Right.
nuances of things. But if you're in a place like New York City where you're bombarded with this over and over again all the time, you just literally can't give your attention to everybody that asks for it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
not even in a homeless situation, but just every sign, everybody that wants you to buy something, I mean,
Yeah.
I think people learn to put those filters on just to just say no to everything because otherwise they'll be in a situation where they'll be stuck in they'll be stuck in too many conversations that they just can't, they don't have the bandwidth.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's that deep question, I think, of how do we filter when there's more input than we can possibly process,
Yeah.
kind of, right? And I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that, but just to name the problem of like, I think that's a common theme to a lot of these things. Yeah.
Yeah. And like with, you know, like walking, in Midtown with like all of the big signs and people like kind of trying to drag you in to buy something, like you need this toaster oven, or like you need this new phone, or like it's like, you know, it's like so overwhelming. Like, and there's so many people that I know that are just like, oh, I have so much stuff and it's like really overwhelming that I have all this stuff. Well, yeah, no wonder why, because like everyone's like, you need this, and they're getting really good at convincing people. But I had a conversation with one of my sister's roommates who's from Australia, and she's lived in New York for like 2-ish years, I think, at this point. And she's like, New York City is so overwhelming because there's just so many people. You're just like so materialistic. Like you have all of these items and you need all of these items, but like for why. And there's just like so many different like, advertising campaigns, and like Christmas is just like this whole huge other level. Like, I'm one person who's just like, I don't want to think about Christmas until after Thanksgiving, but being in New York City, impossible. It is absolutely impossible to do that because Christmas is like you're buying, these material gifts for people, like the perfect opportunity to celebrate this wonderful holiday so I can make you buy all these things for all these other people. And, she was just like, God, it's just so overwhelming. And like it's to the point where like one of our conversations we were talking about like language, right, and how some languages are like noun based and some languages are verb based. You start like emphasizing like objects, or you like emphasize like movements like through the medium of language that you're speaking, and that kind of shapes like the way that you perceive reality. Like English is noun based, but
Mhm.
like also the US, at least specifically, is so materialistic. So that's like, I don't know, even more noun based, maybe.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just like it's so interesting, like how like the
Good
different
point.
cultures are so like if you're more like motion driven or like verb driven, like maybe this wouldn't be
Experience
as big of
driven or
an
something.
issue.
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. That's a good way to describe it. I never thought of it in that way. Like, that's really interesting. Like, imagine like a language that always is action based, and that could drive, this to-do list of this constant next thing, right?
Hmm.
I never realized how much language goes into play with all how we think and how it shapes our perspective on things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like Todd about the Native American tribe
I
language
was just
that,
going to bring that back up.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was in a conversation, I don't know, a decade or so ago, um, around cosmic perspective, right? From different perspectives of how we think about the universe. And one of the participants in these interviews was his name's David Begay, and he's a member of the Navajo Nation, and he's also an astronomer in the sort of Western sense. And so he was trying to describe, somebody was asking him about the relationship to the earth and to the stars and how he would describe that in his culture, then in the Navajo culture, right? And you could see him straining to like, he basically had to switch over into Navajo language in order to think about it and then try to figure out how to pull that into the noun-based English language. And so he was trying to describe like, and I may be getting some of this wrong, but but
Mhm.
my limited understanding of it, like I remember him saying, doing this motion and saying like describing the earth, the way you would describe earth involves moccasin. And there's like the process of your feet, like what it brought to mind for me was like when you walk barefoot, right? And you sort of feel
Mhm.
your connection to the earth. And then he was talking about seeing the stars, and where we would say, like, here's me with my telescope looking at a star, and we talk about how far away the star
Mhm.
is and whatever.
Mhm.
And where they would emphasize more, not photons the way we would say it, but more that there's a seeing that's happening rather than saying, here's the
Mhm.
seer and the thing that's seen. There's like this
Mhm.
process of seeing. So for me, that was just like a little glimpse into how I could imagine how different the world would look if I didn't see a star as separate from me, but I thought about the experience of seeing the stars and how that made me feel and
Yeah.
both are needed and something like that. So you could
Yeah, and
go ahead.
just like also if you were to, because maybe we're so like noun and object oriented, and like, human and star are separate things, you could also be like, well, human and other human are separate things. And if, the language was more verb based or like motion driven and action driven, like maybe. that like sense of community would be and empathy would be more
Yeah.
deeply understood. And because like Native American tribes, like from what I understand, like they're a community like of people who look out for like everyone and each other because of their like connection with each other and their like relationship and connection to each other and the earth and all of those things. And like maybe like in like our language was the thing that sent us down this like capitalistic material based habit, I guess.
Well, they probably go together, right? I mean, a certain way of being has a certain language expression that reinforces it. And so there's, you know what I mean? I'm imagining
Hmm.
there's sort of a reinforcing cycle of
Right.
when we,
Yeah. Like a
yeah,
cyclic cycle.
yeah. But it's worth thinking about how, how do we change our way of being by changing our thinking, by changing our language that we, even
Hmm.
within a language, we can change how we speak or how we this is a
Yeah.
totally off the wall kind of funny thing, but it's just reminding me, and Logan will appreciate this, and Ashley, you have enough math background, you probably will appreciate this too, that the word tensor, like the object that is a tensor is
Hmm.
a like a matrix. So one of the papers that I'm reading, did I already tell you this, Logan? That they
I
use
don't,
that there well, the title of one of these papers for one of these projects is has the word tensorial in it.
you did not tell
So,
me
so
this.
using I've never ever seen the word tensor used as a
Tensorial.
what is that, an adjective? It's
Yeah,
like
huh.
there's a there's a
Describing.
tensorial derivation. Using a tensor in order to anyway, but it actually does have, I mean, it's silly and funny and kind of
Hmm.
unrelated, but it does have a point for this, which is it shows you how your language, how your choice of words changes your thinking, right? Because I had
Hmm.
to stop and think about what does tensorial mean? And so it
Tensorial.
made my experience go in a different direction. So, that'd be an interesting exercise. If there's a different way we'd like to be as a culture, what are like the leverage point language places where if
Mhm.
we, you can make yourself more aware by the shock of a language being different, I think, right? If you
Yeah,
sort of you can wake up by using a word
yeah,
differently or a set of words
Yeah.
differently that makes you behave differently. It's interesting.
because it like forces you to see something a different way.
Yeah. And like things that we've been doing on autopilot, like you two were saying
Hmm.
before, right? Where we're just not even aware, we're just running a program. But if there are like language cues that we can use to break us out of those programs so that we have more empathy or we have more kind of
Yeah.
awareness of something, what are we doing? We question something.
Right.
That could be our challenge for next time is to come up with words that can shift our thoughts.
Yeah. Tensorial, to be of tensor.
Well, the funny thing is, once I was introduced to that, I Googled it, of course, and
Hmm.
there's a whole set of papers in this field of general relativity field. There's a whole set of papers on the tensorial approach.
Tensorial approach. Wow. I wonder what it'd be like to have a language that was like adjective based rather than like verb or noun based
Mhm, mhm.
to describe. I don't know, maybe, for Todd, your research on emphasizing science more of a universe being able to describe um
Itself.
if yeah, to describe itself, like if I don't know, maybe we shift
Okay.
from using math to using a language that was more adjective based.
Yeah,
Maybe that would be more
I like this.
I feel like
What?
that's like
fruitful.
poems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Poems are
yeah.
Huh.
really good at describing things. That's why I remember really I haven't read poems in a while, but I remember getting really into poems, and I think it was that like that spark in like, wow, I get to picture things a little bit more, and I get to appreciate the leaves crunching a little
Hmm.
bit more, just because Mary Oliver wrote something a little bit about it, like the way they
Hmm.
describe things. So I think even like in English literature, there's different languages within that. If we're talking just English, yeah. But if we're talking like, I don't know, I didn't really like back then, I didn't really like reading like Romeo and Juliet, that sort of stuff, because I really found it hard to understand. But I remember really liking poetry because it was just different ways of describing things more. And you really do start picturing things more. So like what you said, Logan, like language does impact how you it shifts your perspective. You start noticing and seeing things maybe a little differently, maybe more,
Hmm.
maybe less, right?
Hmm.
Than how something was meant or to be conveyed. It's conveyed differently with how you describe things or how you say things, noun based, adjective based versus yeah, adverbs.
Yeah. No, because that also like, reminds me of, how like art and like the performing arts or like music and
Yeah.
stuff also gives you such a visceral understanding of description, that, English can't be able to describe. And, of course, math can't really be able to describe because that's interesting. Like math can't describe emotion unless somehow someone made a, I don't know, new math that would be able to describe emotion somehow. But like math in itself is kind of also separating the describer from the universe because it can't incorporate like those more visceral descriptions of reality that we experience or that observers experience. Or I mean, if there are observers that don't experience reality this way, that also could be the case. But like music, I think I talked about this with Todd a little bit, but there's a book that I'm reading, a book series. It's the King Killer Chronicles, by Patrick Rothfuss. The first book is called The Name of the Wind. And in that book, something happened. So the main character is like grew up in a theater troupe, like a traveling theater troupe. And something happened where he got separated from his troupe, and he found himself alone, in this new world, but found himself with his father's lute. And to cope with this separation, he would just constantly be playing the lute. And he got to the point where he could seamlessly describe like what it was like for a leaf to fall from a tree, or like for like describe like a waterfall like so viscerally just by like playing the lute. And so like, just how poetry can be able to describe things through its emphasis on like adjectives. Like art and music can also kind of have like those very visceral descriptions of
Yeah.
reality as well, which is interesting.
It makes me think there's an Alan Watts passage that I think it's something like there's nothing, he says, there's nothing at all that can be talked about adequately, and the whole art of poetry is to say what can't be said,
Hmm.
right?
Wow.
You could say that of music and theater probably too, right?
Hmm.
It appeals to I find that things that appeals to my senses is what I kind of like.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can imagine things a little better. I can picture things a little better. It kind of makes me happy in a way because I can now feel
Hmm.
like it's not just like maybe something describing the leaf, right? Crunching. It's not even just that. It's imagining myself touching it too. It's like it puts me
Hmm.
into this like different like reflection mode, and it's like, okay, if I touched it, it would probably be really rough to the touch, and if I pushed
Hmm.
it, it would probably crackle and then crack or maybe even break because it could go into pieces, and now you're picturing how it would go.
You
Now
can
you're
feel
picturing,
the
now you're hearing the
crumbling and the,
sounds and stuff and
yeah.
touching how we would feel, and it's just really, I've never thought of taste, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, what would a leaf taste like?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Cabbage, or it's all this sort of stuff. I
Right.
feel
All
like
these
I find
nuances.
myself thinking of my
You're like
senses, or it appeals to me more.
Almost
you're
like the language.
experiencing more clearly.
yeah, it's almost like the language amplifies or enhances your senses, right? It gives you
Yeah.
Hmm.
more resolution to your senses in a way because the language gives you the ability to express it even into,
Right.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, there's something about that. And like this, like experiencing more clearly that I feel like is probably very beneficial to science. I mean, well, to everything, but like more specifically science and how like that. I feel like that's maybe kind of what we're missing is like the ability to experience more clearly, like through senses and like amplify our like reasoning and like intuition and because of our lack of ability, like lack of emphasis on experiencing more clearly versus just kind of like separating like away from our senses and being able to, I don't know, like maybe there is like a booster to like brain and reasoning and innovation and thought um, that like tapping into the senses can provide that you can't get from using the normal means of analysis in science.
Like here's one I just thought of. The way
Hmm.
black holes are talked about in science versus when you read poetries about black holes. I feel like I start thinking about being pulled into one and then
Hmm.
my body stretching. And then I start thinking more about like what would it smell like or what would my
Whoa.
what I see be
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah.
What would it sound like? Would
Hmm.
it be like hollow or just be really loud as I get sucked in? And then will I just see a bunch of actual, like people would describe black holes as, it's really dark, you're just getting
Hmm.
sucked in and it's just like hollow and it's quick. But what if, imagine yourself being sucked into it and then your hands reaching out, just trying to get out. And then imagine all the specks of things you'd be seeing going through it, every particle, right? Molecules, maybe you'll see it more because you're so confined and stretched out. Maybe your brain can comprehend it so quickly. And then just that feeling. I feel like the tug I would feel more. And I feel like that's the sort of stuff like I would get with when I write poems, right? Or stuff like that.
Yes.
I get to describe or imagine more. But then with science, sometimes it's just clear cut. It's like, this is how it would be
Hmm.
like. This is, no
Right.
gravity or something. And it's like being told like, okay, gravity is what, like depending like how gravity is described in science versus when I imagine it from like a different perspective, it's like, oh, I'm floating. What does it mean to be
Hmm.
floating without gravity, right? Like would it,
Hmm.
I feel like you start imagining and grasping things more
Yeah.
when things appeal to your senses.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I
Hmm.
actually like it.
Ye-
That topic makes me happy.
ye- Yeah, me too. And there's something about, when we say it appeals to our senses, we we mean also that it's the feeling of it, like you can describe it to describe the senses, but by talking about the senses, you're bringing in the experience, which is
Hmm.
different than
Hmm.
it's different than what, I mean, in fact, I never really thought about it this way before, but that's why we have these conversations.
Hmm.
Like, I wonder, in mathematics that are very algorithmic, right? There's like a structure to it. And then there are all these incompleteness theorems about things that you can't express in an
Yeah.
algorithmic mathematical language. And um, so I wonder if that's related to all of this, there's a paper I was just reading about the limits of algorithms, and they used the phrase non-algorithmic understanding. And I actually have that as one of my note cards. Like I want to understand what does that mean? What does non-algorithmic understanding mean? And I wonder if
Hmm.
it's related to something that's more experience based and it's not, you can't ever
Right.
say it explicitly, but you can refer to
Right.
it with poetry. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like it can't be pen to paper.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
in
Hmm.
a way, it can't really be just, X equals two or whatever it is, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
maybe there is more imagination that's needed.
Mhm.
Right.
Kind of
Even
like it's kind of nice to go to a liberal arts school, I think, because Pacific, it's like you're more well-rounded. You're touching different, you
Mhm.
know, a lot of STEM people are like, I can't do art, right? Like I can't do art for what it is. I can't draw. I can't like I notice a lot of people are like that.
yep.
Like when you go to class and they're like, yeah, I love science. I can't wait to, take physics or I can't wait to take chemistry or whatever it is. And it's like, but oh my gosh, I'm dreading like the art class. We have to choose one. And I feel like sometimes maybe that's what it is, like what you're saying. It's not, it's being introduced to imagination and creativity helps with answering certain questions that you maybe wouldn't have found without it, without being, and maybe
Right.
that's why, the school was built on learning, choose between, I don't know, it was for me, it was in high school, it was like Spanish and Japanese and like you choose three languages or something. And I feel like you're
Huh?
being introduced constantly to different realms of creativity,
Uh-huh.
imagination, meditation, PE class, exercise. How can you exercise your body in such a way that maybe will help you answer other
Hmm.
questions you have, right? Other than just
Mhm.
paper, pencil,
Being
and being
one-sided,
and
right?
testing correctly on for a
Mhm.
test, right? It's interesting kind of like starting to think about these things and
Yep.
we don't do it often. Yeah.
We don't often
Yeah,
have enough space for it.
and I mean, I think that's why like Einstein was so like successful and like Feynman and like all of those people because like when Einstein was like what 16 where he had the what is that called? What is that called? I know what it's called.
The thought experiment?
The thought, yeah, thank you. The thought
Get out an
experiment
experiment.
of like chasing like a beam of
Yeah. What
light.
if I could
Like
catch
when
up to a beam of light? It's kind of like Ashley's, what if I fell
yeah,
into a black
like
hole?
black hole thing. Like that's how he
Yep.
would,
Answer.
approach his
Fair enough.
sciences and stuff. But like
Yep.
also, there are lots of accounts where Einstein would say that he used like the violin and the piano to be able to get over like a hump in his research. Like he would have to like engage in like those like motor controls to be able to
Yeah.
then, um play music and experience through music to be able to get unstuck from one thing that he was thinking about. So like he in a way like did do that, like he
Mhm.
incorporated creativity
Mhm.
into his scientific analysis of reality.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I think we're on to
Good
something.
example. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just something about the visceral um understanding of reality that you can't describe without music or art or creativity. Like you can't there's a language that creativity and imagination use that we aren't aware of, I feel like. Because we can experience it and like we interact with it, but like the only way that we can communicate with it at least is like, partaking in it, like, playing an instrument or like writing poetry or like having, even like a creative connection or an aha moment that just kind of like all of a sudden appears in your brain. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like how does that thing appear into your brain
Mhm.
and where does it come from? And how
Mhm.
do these, how do your instincts guide you to play a song that's never been written before or like, think of, some different way to
Mhm.
describe something through like poetry and the use of words or like where you're even placing the word on the page or like drawing a picture of it or just like this
Mhm.
crazy visceral picture of something or like art like on a in a museum or like there's like this language that is used that like we are communicating with, but I feel like we don't understand necessarily like what this language is, or maybe we don't need to understand. Maybe that's the point that we don't understand like how this language works or like how we're being able to communicate through like art and creativity and imagination. But like I don't know, maybe there could be a way to harness this mystery creative language that we can use in scientific analysis that we aren't aware of because we don't quite understand exactly how we're communicating through like, music or art or whatever. We just can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the complementarity or whatever you want to call it, right? Is that we need the language or the drawing or the music or we need the concrete things to be able to point to it. But we have to remember that what we're talking about isn't exhausted by just those concrete things, right? That we're using those things as sort of a dance to dance around something that we can never
Hmm.
pin down. And maybe that's what the
Hmm.
sort of non-algorithmic understanding is, right? It's
Hmm.
that like what is it that you feel when you get excited about, oh, I understand something, like I see it.
Hmm.
And it's never completely captured by the equation you write down or the painting you make or the poem you write or
Hmm.
whatever. But
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
you need the poem or whatever it is to point yourself to it, but it's not just literally that thing that you wrote. It's what it
Yeah.
points to. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like a pointer pointing to a piece of memory that
Like, yeah.
can't be accessed.
Can't be like the Zen pointing at the moon kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm going to have that phrase in my head now for a long time, non-algorithmic understanding. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
think of
Hmm.
everything you just said.
Hmm.
It's going to be tied to that. I just don't want to forget, Logan. I thought you said that you had to.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Okay,
originally was gonna Zoom from my house, but I'm actually at my sister's house right now because of there's an event happening here.
got it.
I unfortunately do probably have to leave now,
Okay.
um, but I did get an extra 15 minutes out of being
I
able
like
to
that.
Zoom from my
You do,
sister's
so you
room.
are not late, but you do have to leave now, right? So I like
Hmm.
that. I
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, shall we kind of tentatively just kind of keep this going once a month at around this time on a Sunday? Maybe people can just email and say like when, we don't have to decide now, but you just, sometime mid. Well, Logan,
Yeah.
you're gonna be here in Oregon again
Hmm. By this time next
by
month.
this time next month. So maybe we could actually meet
Hmm.
in person if you want. We could
Yeah.
have coffee or something.
I would like that.
Well,
I would like that a lot.
okay.
I will
Yeah,
be
no,
out for
that would
most
be
of
wonderful.
December though.
You're gonna be out most of December? Okay.
Yeah, I'm traveling to Asia, so I think
Oh, got it.
Whoa.
Okay.
I'll be back Christmas Day, so anytime after that.
Okay.
Okay.
I should be here. I'm gonna be in Oregon from December 11th to December 28th. So
Okay.
we could meet
Yeah,
So do
after that.
you want to tentatively plan on, we could get together on the 26th or 27th or whatever. Just yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll communicate and figure it out, but
Cool.
we'll do something in December after Ashley gets back.
yeah, sure.
That sounds
Cool.
awesome.
All
All
right.
right. It was
Well,
nice
as
talking
always,
with you
yeah,
guys.
very
I feel
inspiring.
wonderful now.
Yeah. Good.
All
All
right.
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 Well,
Take care,
yeah,
everyone.
take care and safe travels, Ashley, if I don't see you
Yeah, thank
before.
you.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.